Is this the beginning of a new leaf being turned at the University of Texas at Austin? They won the Red River rivalry, just absolutely taking it to Oklahoma last night, or I guess yesterday afternoon, 49-0. Now, we're going to talk about this game in totality and give you our full breakdown for both sides tonight on the live show. 6 Central, 7 Eastern. Make sure you're tuned in. But there was a couple of things that I was really impressed by from this program that we just transparently haven't seen from Texas teams of the past, or at least of recent past. First and foremost, they checked the box yesterday, beating a team that they are supposed to beat. Now, that sounds like no big deal. It sounds like, okay, you should go beat teams you're supposed to beat, right? That sounds like common sense. Well, that's not something we saw from Texas last year in year 1 under Sark. May I draw your attention to the game against Kansas? May I draw your attention to the multiple times they were up at half and just couldn't finish in the second half? This team yesterday found a way to just continue to surge, continue to play their brand of football, and check the box they were supposed to check, which as a whole is really encouraging and probably really refreshing for Texas fans. They didn't play to the level of their opponent. Again, we're going to talk about Oklahoma when we get to that talking point tonight, but Oklahoma's down bad, y'all. Like, just the reality of it. We saw it yesterday for the 3rd time in a row for that Sooner program. Oklahoma's down bad. And from Texas, we're very accustomed to them seeing getting up for big games, and then when the opponent doesn't necessarily have the same kind of juice, or they feel like maybe they're supposed to beat that team, they just kind of stroll, take their time. Maybe it'll come to the 4th quarter, they'll play like it. That wasn't the case yesterday. There was 4 quarters of Texas not worrying about the other logo, not worrying about what the other team was bringing to the table, and just playing their football. Really encouraging for Texas fans. I'm Jody Pickell. This is The Hard Count. Subscribe to the channel. It helps us. It helps you. We're able to have more interaction. It's a good time. We appreciate you in advance. Second thing I was encouraged by from Texas, there was absolutely zero flinch. Because early in the game, Texas is up 7-0. Oklahoma's getting a drive together, right? Gets to 4th down. Oklahoma calls a timeout. Come out with the offense, call a timeout, said, no, we're going to kick a field goal. So, advantage Texas, right? Whole momentum swing to Texas. They think they're going to force a field goal. Oklahoma fakes the field goal, converts. And old Texas would have gotten down to the dumps. Started pointing fingers and saying, hey, that was your guy. No, that was your guy. What are you doing? You're out of position. That's a misassignment. And they would have let that compound. They would have allowed Oklahoma to score a touchdown. That would have led to another momentum swing towards Oklahoma. And what did this Texas team do? Held their water, stood their ground, forced turnover on downs on that drive. That's impressive. That shows me so much maturity from what they've been in the past. Because, again, we don't see that from Old Texas. Old Texas lets that get to them. That wasn't the case. On top of that, the Wildcat that Oklahoma came out in, that was a new look for them. That was something that Oklahoma hadn't put on film before. And Old Texas would have gotten all flustered, would have been all out of position, and would have allowed that to sort of dictate the tempo towards them. I mean, think about last year. It's a little bit more of an extreme example, but Oklahoma kept running that sort of weird formation with Kennedy Brooks where he would take the direct snap and he would sort of just gash them time and time and again. What did Texas do this time? Just sort of collect themselves, sort of adjust in game, stayed patient. Steve Sarkisian said we knew they weren't just going to run a bit. They're eventually going to have to throw a pass. They did. Forced turnover. I'm not concerned about Oklahoma. For Texas to be able to adjust in game, to not panic, shows a lot of progress from where they were a season ago. I don't think that's an overstatement. Finally, they got a dude at quarterback, right? Like, I haven't seen a guy like Quinn Ewers pulling the trigger for Texas since Colt McCoy in terms of being able to push the ball downfield. Sam Ehlinger was great. Casey Thompson, I think, got a bad rap last year. But what Quinn Ewers did yesterday, he just looked so comfortable, so collected. And you could tell the entire program, not just the offense, the entire program vibed off that. He had a contagious energy about himself. And I had seen Quinn Ewers before, watched his tape from different camps and whatever. And my first thought when I see him in the camp circuit is kind of lackadaisical, right? It doesn't seem like he's in a rush to do anything. And at first I was like, okay, that's a camp thing. He's out there in sweats. He's just sort of throwing the ball around. It's not a game-like scenario. He looked the exact same way yesterday against Oklahoma. Never panicked. So much composure, so much poise. To tell you what, he can park wherever he wants in Austin right now. There is not a place on the 40 acres that Quinn Ewers can't park his Aston Martin or his Tesla, whatever he's got, whatever he's whipping. He can park that anywhere he wants based on how he played yesterday. Now, understand this. The sample size is small. So the comparison to Colt McCoy is at extreme? Absolutely. He's still got to be able to play that way against teams like Oklahoma State. They still got to play Baylor. Still got to play TCU. So there's a lot in front of them, but to have a guy that can sort of steer the ship, if you will, offensively. You have a guy that's going to keep you in every game, or at least is capable of keeping you in every game, adds a lot. I'll close with this. The edge that we saw Texas play with yesterday is something we haven't seen in a long time. The defense. I mean, they forced 3 of 15 conversion rate from Oklahoma. That's huge. That's winning football. On the outside, they're throwing swing passes to Bijan Robinson. You got Jordan Whittington absolutely just burying defensive backs. When that's in your receiver room, when your receiver room wants to play that physical, I promise you that's a team-wide mantra. That's an edge that Texas has. I can't stress this enough. Old Texas doesn't have that kind of edge. Old Texas doesn't shut out Oklahoma yesterday. Oklahoma was down bad offensively, but Texas doesn't play 4 quarters to make that a shutout. There's a sense of pride about this team. It's still early in the season. There's still a lot of games left to be played. But from what I saw yesterday, it looks like Steve Sarkisian's plan is starting to have some ROI. You're starting to see some proof of concept from Texas. So again, 49-0, Texas wins the Red River rivalry. We're going to break down this game in its entirety tonight on the live show. So subscribe to the channel. Tune back in with us at 7 Eastern, 6 Central. We'll have a good time. Until then, we're going to keep the party rolling. We will see y'all next time.